Welcome to the Under the Hat podcast,
the show where we talk about everything and anything that is top of mind in education.
The goal is to provide meaningful conversations to what is currently happening in our classrooms.
Stories, pains,
moments of success.
We want to hear it all.
Welcome, friends. We are here at I had to look up for a second. Episode 34. Time is flying, right, Sophie?
It is really flying. I was like 34. Steam machine. Steam machine.
Steam machine.
Yeah. Excited to have you guys.
Yeah, super stoked.
We're excited to be here.
It's a Tuesday, right? And so normally our listeners are like, hey, what are you doing on a Tuesday? But I'm super stoked to be here. And so we are joined today by Tara Koehler as well as John Sammon, looking at a lot of different things. But if you're listening and if you know me personally, you know that I love not just a project, but an experience, a PBL experience, and really getting students to dive into their own inquiry, changing how students learn, changing how teachers assess, right? And I have my own take on how I use PBL in the classroom with my own daughter, right? And stuff of that nature. But Tara, John, super excited to have you here and chat with us today. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're excited. This is great. Listen, how better to spend your Tuesday night than under the hat?
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, that's what I like to hear. Yeah. And so having, before we dive into, PBL
I have
itself,
a question for you.
Wow, Steve, I think I have a similar relationship with Tara.
Before we dive into the book, what you guys do now, we would like to hear a little bit as quick as you can. Tara, we'll start with you. Tell us about your education journey.
So I started my education career in one of the largest school districts in Dutchess County in New York. People like to say it's upstate New York, but it's really not upstate. I taught in the classroom for 17 years, ranging from grades K through 3. I have a special ed, not special ed. And in my classroom experience, I actually had John come in as an instructional coach with me. And prior to John getting there, I was definitely diving into PBL work in my classroom, and working with John just made it even more exciting. And it made it so exciting that John came knocking on my door one day saying, hey, they're making another one of me. Maybe you should think about applying. And so I did. I applied for the STEAM Professional Development Specialist position. And I had an interview and everything. It was very scary after 17 years, but I did get the position. And this is our 6th year working in the district together as professional development specialists for STEAM. And PBL is definitely a cornerstone in the work that we do. So grateful every day for what I get to do. There's days I get in the car and I'll call John and be like, I can't believe this is what we do. Like, how lucky are we? So.
I agree. Oh, that's amazing. That's fabulous that you have that to go home and you have that good fuzzy feeling inside. That's what you're looking for. John, what about you?
My turn now. Been an educator for 20 plus years. I worked in an inner city school district for a while, about 17, 18 years, ranging from elementary to middle school. Assumed other positions while I was there, professional development specialist, literacy coach, moved over. Here's the funny thing, the district that we're in now, Wappinger Central School District, I see the ad that comes out for the position and I see STEAM Professional Development Specialist. And I'm a science and math guy. I don't know how I ended up as a literacy coach, but I look at it and I was like, oh yeah, I'll apply. I thought it was a joke. I'm like, I didn't even know that position existed. So now I've been in Wappingers, as Tara said, for what are we, like 6 years now, 7 years in Wappinger.
Well, you and I are 6 years. You're a little long. You're like
a little bit longer, yeah.
Yeah.
It started off, STEAM was happening in places in the district. And then it just literally blew up. I mean, there's hundreds of classrooms that we get to get in. And so that's the best part, is that we're in classrooms every single day in our job. Like, there's the theoretical coaches that tell you things from the side and then they come and observe you. Now, Tara and I don't do that. Our job is actually in classrooms, modeling practices, co-planning, designing PBL. Like just this morning, I was working with some new teachers and redesigning their math workshop and putting in choice boards and stuff like that. So we're literally in classrooms every single day, side by side with educators. So that's my favorite part of it, is that it's the theory and the practice. We really have a luxury in our job. So it's nice. And as Tara said, I mean, I don't want to say this out loud, but I'm like, I feel like we're the cool aunt and uncle that get to walk into the classroom and the kids are like, yay, because they know that there's some kind of cool PBL or project that we're working on. So that's kind of it in the gist.
And we have a very large school district. So we are 10 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools, and 1 alternative high school. So we are.
Do you mind if I jump in for a second? We primarily, Tara and I, you can see, here we go. We're going to start talking over each other.
I know. I'm like, I can finish the thought, John. But go ahead. You want to say your words, go and say them.
We primarily work at the elementary schools, but we'll do in-services and various things for middle school and high school, and projects that extend up to the high school.
Yes, we collaborate with the high school students on different PBL experiences. So, but yep. I'll repeat what he said because that's what I do. We work in the elementary school.
I'm going to open my mouth and speak now. Okay, cool. So I just love this idea of, so this whole thing, like what you two are describing, is a very foreign concept in my area and in my district, right? Like if you're going to implement PBL, it's that one teacher who has an innovative brain, perhaps, or is frustrated with the status quo. That was me. And just go and do it and learn more about it. The fact that you have positions that are purposefully trying to change your hallways by going in and not just like the instructional coach, but like, no, we are showing authentic learning and helping you with authentic learning. And it's just good for kids. That's phenomenal. What I guess I'm curious is like, so how's the buy-in? Is it like, from, because you said it's a large district. Is it like, are you seeing a lot of traction? Like, yes, we want more of this. What's the relationship building? Or is it similar to like an ed tech coach where there is a lot of work to do in terms of trying to get that buy-in to teach in this way?
We have a lot. There's a lot of people. STEAM as a whole, so it's not just the PBL aspect, which is generally grounded in the science. We do the math work as well. But the PBL, we can talk about, has been a slow grower, right? Because it is a unique methodology. We're really fortunate. I got to give props before we go into some of the details, but our superintendent loves it, champions it. Our school board loves it, champions it. They show up at our celebrations. They retweet our tweets. They invite us out to board meetings to talk about stuff. So they really love it. So we're very fortunate that we have that. And then now, I mean, we can get into some numbers. I mean, Tara, we can start banging them around, but I mean, we have hundreds of kids involved.
Hundreds of kids involved. Where when it first started, Steve, like, yeah, I think it was those one-offs. And, you know, we might have had like 2 projects going in a year's time in that first year. But now we have an entire grade level. We have 6 out of our 9 elementary schools that have 5th grade all engaged in a community PBL. So PBL has varying degrees. You could have cool temperature PBLs, which is part of our book, and you could have the hot. So the hot ones, yes, we have less of those because those are the community partnerships, and we really do work side by side. But some of the cooler temperature and elemental work is definitely going on in more places than we thought. And if I could just touch on the part that you said about building relationships, it can seem really overwhelming and scary. And I think that the building relationships with people and trust is really like how we get in the doors. And I will tell you, there are teachers that we work with that are like calling us and saying, please come, like, can we do a project? And we have some teachers that are repeat customers every year. And we love that because you could go deeper. But this year in particular, like we have so many newbies to PBL that are literally trusting us through the process. And like, even a couple of people that like I joke around, I'm like, I'm so sorry I strong armed you into this. Like, I promise you won't regret it. Like, trust me, you won't regret it. And to see like what's happening in some of those classes right now and to see the teacher light up along with the students, it's amazing.
You know what really it's so Tara says relationships. I'm going to say that there's another part to it as well, is I think that there's a competitive nature with some of our colleagues.
True.
And when they see an amazing project come out of their neighbor's classroom and they weren't part of it, and there's a celebration and there's families and there's guests and board members, sometimes people turn around and are like, whoa, hold on, what's that? What are you doing over there?
Yeah.
So I think there's two parts. I do think it
is
always grounded in relationships. But I do think that when you see PBL, the wood for the tree, you start to realize like, oh my God, this can be so much better than what I'm doing.
Something you said that reminded me of my coaching days was when the neighbor teacher is like, wait a second. And it doesn't even have to have the huge celebration after the fact, just that they were doing something cool and their kids were talking about it because they share kids or they hear it in the hallway or the teacher is talking about this really cool thing that they did. Word spreads and they're like, okay. So my question to you is, have you had a teacher do a complete 180 on you where they're like, I don't need you in my classroom, but they eventually did?
Last year, actually, we used to joke around, and when you walk down the hallway and people do this and their doors close as you come past them, you're like, I get it. We can talk in the hallway, but you don't want to do any work. I had a colleague that literally came right out and said, would you come in? It was a small level. It was a cool level PBL. It did go out. There was a public product that went out to AT&T, but she turned around at the end and said, okay, you're going to hold my hand through this. We're going to walk through this slowly. I said, absolutely. I got you every step of the way. And from planning meetings through lessons, modeling it right down to the public products. She turned around as we were finished. And I don't think that she hasn't grabbed me every day. I'm walking in the hallway going, just remember, we're going to do another one this year. Just remember, we're going to do another one this year. So it is awesome when they get into it and they're supported, right? Steve, you were just talking about it before. It comes with the support though. You can't just throw that out on somebody.
Because I myself can just talk all day about PBL, but one thing that I've noticed, Tara and John, is that like even when I feel like I'm in front of the right audience, there's plenty of folks out there that either they don't know what project-based learning is, or they have like this notion of what it is, almost like a misconception. So we just have to get that out on this episode, like just get it out there and curious, like maybe we'll go John first. I think Tara went first last time. I'm just trying to be, but like what, I guess, what is PBL and why PBL, I guess is my two questions. John,
all right, so
first.
What is PBL can be a very broad definition. We'll define it to our terms. And then we'll talk about some of the other pieces. So what is PBL? We generally look at it as it's a real world application, right? And so we're using our knowledge to create something for someone. We actually say it in the book. We refer to it as fundamentally shifting how you interact with your knowledge. That's what we really look at project-based learning as. So it's not just these skills that come at me. It's these skills that come at me, and then I apply them in a meaningful context. The public product piece that goes out, there's all layers to it. In a nutshell, I would summarize it to that quote: fundamentally shifting how students interact with their knowledge.
Do you want me to jump in on the why?
Yeah.
Okay. So the why, I'll just paint a little picture for you. Last year, we were at a children's hospital celebrating, delivering multiple public products that came out of our elementary and high school classroom. We had high schoolers there that manufactured instruments. They were tempo drums and xylophones that were inspired by first graders applying their knowledge of sound waves and fourth graders applying their knowledge of energy transfer. Then we had two other cohorts of kids there, sixth graders and third graders that wrote digital books for the kids in the hospital, and they scan the QR code on the iPads in the hospital, and the children are reading the book to the the sick kids. So we're at this celebration, and at the end, one of our board members comes up and says, "It is really incredible what happens when you put purpose and audience to what kids have to do, and the investment that these kids have." Like, these third graders wrote these books, and then they were doing something else for the teacher, and they said, "Who is this for?" And the teacher was like, "Oh, well, this one's just for us." And then we had one of our assistant superintendents at that same celebration who, we walked up to him at the end of the event, and he said, "Tara and John, I had no idea." And he's like, "I'm watching these families. You have the parents of the little authors, and parents are rubbing their kids back as we're speaking, and the enthusiasm in the room." And he said, "The passion that is coming out of what everybody did for this community partner," he's like, "I had no idea." And so that's the why we need to do this for our students, because you put purpose and audience, even if it's a cooler temperature PBL, and the audience might not be for a children's hospital. There's still something to be said when we know we're making something for someone.
So the making something for someone, one of the projects that Tara was referring to, the hospital that we were working with. So the high school students had the privilege to go upstairs to the game room to bring some of the resources that were created, right? So they go up to that, and there is a patient's parent that's coming into the game room to retrieve something to bring it back to the room. So this mother starts crying and gives the children a hug. And I'm standing right, and I get a lump in my throat. You're like a grown man standing there. And she turns around and she says, "Actually, my son and daughter go to your school district." So the kids were actually creating things. Ironically, one of the students that was there receiving treatment goes to the district. So it's like, when you have that kind of serendipity that happens, that's, again, Tara said, right? We're looking at cool, medium, hot. That's at the highest level of PBL. But once you do that, there's no looking back at other stuff.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? And I don't know if this is going off the rails a little bit, but
why not? That's what we do.
That's what we do, right? So you were talking about that 180, right? That teacher, that 180. And we partner with our local utility company. And right now we have sixth graders that are prototyping renewable energy systems, showing their knowledge of force and motion, energy, force and motion. And they're creating this for, the utility company. So the group of kids that are in that sixth grade room, when they were third graders, created an informational web page for Central Hudson on how to get ready for hazardous weather in the Hudson Valley. And it was actually a meeting at the beginning of the year with that teacher. We finished up, and the kids are coming in, and they're like, "Mrs. Koehler, wait, are you here to do something with us again, like Central Hudson?" And I was like, I didn't know if I had 100% of the teacher yet. And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I'm working with your teacher, and we'll just have to find out." And she looked at me, and like everything changed for her in that moment as the kids are coming in the door from their lunch, and they were excited about what they could potentially be doing when they saw me. So making something for someone, that's what they want to do.
Yeah, I love that. Like that was a lot of like what my students were doing. Sometimes from like a problem based, like we can get into the weeds of like that difference. To me, it's the same umbrella, because it's like still the inquiry, it's still the passion. It's for someone, and so I just like right out of the gate when I shifted that way, I'm like, man, talk about like just changing student motivation, and just changing the whole mindset. Part of what John and Tara, part of like what you all are doing though, is not only are you training the educators of how to teach in this way, but you also have to teach them how to train the kids, because it's a big shift for the kids too. And so I spent at least that first semester at the high school level, it was a lot of open conversations with my students about, and I can say this now because I don't teach in that district anymore. Why is the system trash? Why is the way that we grade, the standardized testing, the way that we
Mhm.
fit every single learner in the exact same box as if they were the exact same person, right? Like, why is it that way? And so it's a lot of unpacking that. And then they start, like, once they start to figure out, like, oh dang, he's right, and then having that buy-in. So I guess my question is, like, what strategies are you using from like a coaching perspective of doing both, of like preparing the teachers but also preparing the students as well?
I don't think they are going to have these conversations in the elementary school, though. So I am interested. What did you do different from Steve at the high school level? Because you're not going to have those conversations with kindergartners. I'm just saying. So, like,
No. My question from a coaching perspective, like when they go in and they're supporting their teachers, how are they also preparing their teachers to like shift the students a little bit to do different strategies, to do different
We
practices?
do.
Yeah.
We call it lesson 0.
Yeah, go ahead, talk about it. We just wrote an article for Edutopia about it.
Yeah, so like lesson 0.
Oh, okay.
So like before you start diving into these huge, so how to get the students ready, right? And it does help get the teachers ready. You start to bring in some of those elemental pieces with a lesson 0. So what does lesson 0 entail? It entails maybe some design challenges for kids at the beginning of the year. So everyone likes to do getting to know you activities. So instead of getting that teacher pay teacher getting to know you activity, throw the kids in a design challenge situation where you're watching like who they're made of, like, you know, who's your assertive personalities, who's not assertive, like who's the most divergent thinker in the class. And you start to take notes about who your students are, which, you know, teaches you a lot about the humans that will be working on these experiences and can help you to think how to design the experiences around them, you know. I mean, I could keep going, but John, you add on to like another lesson 0.
Yeah,
so I said design challenges.
What we wrote about specifically was we were writing for Edutopia because of the complexity of it. So how do you break it down? And so how do you start? You start with these incremental pieces, right? And so lesson 0 was what we were referring to specifically on how you could be achieving perspective from the students simultaneously. Because we can put out perspective surveys, but why would you not put them in a real situation to see who they are? Or as that Tara said, what are they made of? To see who are your leaders, who are the empaths, who are the organizers of the high executive functioning. And so you set them up. Tara was referring to design challenges. We also set out inquiry challenges where it's more, you know, here's a question that we're putting out there. How are you going to go about doing it? They're small, like done within a lesson, right? Really quick tasks that we can kind of get in and just set it up. We're not talking about design challenges where the prototypes are the main thing. It's the process is what we're looking at. And so that is like how we start it and we get it going was that lesson 0.
And also, and this is on our webpage and it's also included in the book, you know, introducing collaborative norms with your students, accountable talk stems, just learning how to be people. You know, we're not all going to agree all the time. So how do we have conversations and get through, you know, whatever it is? I mean, we know that sometimes adults don't play nice. So teaching these kids how to play nice early on is important. And we do it as early as kindergarten. We absolutely introduce to them, you know, how to have those conversations with each other.
We informally grade them on it. We literally tell them, like, here's a red, yellow, green. This is what we're looking at in accountable talk. If you have 3 of these items, then you did some struggling today. So we're literally informally or anecdotally grading them on their actual collaboration simultaneously while we might be delivering science content or we might be delivering something else. So they're well aware that they're being not just discussions, but being monitored in relationship to it. And there has not been a single student that has not risen to the challenge. They really do. They're remarkable.
We also recommend, like, you know, obviously we're science math people, so that's what we could talk to, but we like our classrooms to be set up with science notebooks that serves as like a portfolio through the process. So we have our teachers in that early stage setting up science notebooks with, you know, table of contents for kids. And it's just a curation of everything through that whole PBL experience, the hands-on, the literature, the notes, the reflections.
There's so many kids at this point, though. We are very fortunate. Paula referred to it. There's a lot of students that we have that have been part of PBL experiences throughout their journey in elementary school. That it may not be entire classrooms, when they change grade by grade, but there's a number of kids in almost every class we're going into now that have had PBL experiences. And man, do they jump right in and they're like, no, watch how you do this. Like, they know the game, they know how to play it, and they are excited to be part of it and bring others into it. So, they're the greatest asset is actually having other kids who know how to do it and then work off of them.
So did we answer your question?
I have a follow-up.
It was how do we actually work with teachers and how do we start to train children in the methodologies?
Got it. Okay. I'm like, was that I thought that was the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We could be like a Seinfeld episode. We might go in a circle and eventually come back to it.
You have a follow-up, Sophie?
I do. You said that you mainly work in elementary settings, but you have done things where it goes up to the secondary level. I was a middle school math and science teacher before I became a secondary coach. And do you find that it is a lot easier to help train them to think this way, to communicate this way in the elementary level? Or do you think it's easier as they're older when they have a more brain functionality because their brains are more developed?
I don't think easier like by age is exactly what I would say. I mean, personally, I think if you grab them while they're young and it helps to build that mindset, right, as they move forward in school. But I have to tell you, like the high schoolers, when we go in and work with them, what shifts in them from the first day. And John, you could tell the story, make fun of me.
I'm actually smirking as she said, because I'm like, I know she's going to go there.
No, you share it because it's just funny.
Go ahead.
So we go to the high school and like, I'm an elementary person, and I was like a very primary elementary person until I went to intermediate grades. Most of my career was in the primary. So we go to the high school every year and we talk to the manufacturing class about, what's next and who it's for. And I say the same thing every year. What do I say, John? Every year.
She's like, the high schoolers are so tough. We're walking down the hallway, leaving the building. And she's like, high schoolers are so tough. And I start laughing. I'm like, Tara, they just could care less about what we have to say. It's really what it is.
And in September, they care less. Like, we're going in on Monday next week, and they're going to care less about what we have to say. But when I tell you the shift that happens in them, when they are part of delivering that thing they manufacture to who we're doing it for, and how they get up and speak in front of an audience. So I see the same excitement, and I see the excitement and wonder faster in the elementary kids. Like, they're like 8, they want to please, they're like, yep, woohoo. Where the high schoolers, they're like, really annoying at first because they're like, they have to be so, stoic and whatever. But watching the shift in them is pretty cool. It's
the little ones are an easy hook. The older ones, you need to get the authenticity for them to start biting.
Right. But the outcome is the same. So that's a beautiful thing.
Right.
Like, the start is different, but the outcome is the same. So
and we kind of touched on this because, like, my experience was my students, they went their whole K through 12 experience, and then they had the misfortune of having me. And then at the very end, it was like culture shock of like, they did school this way, like way number one, and they've never done it any other way.
Right.
What I appreciate about the work that you are doing is that you're getting them sooner. And I think for some of them, they would have, they still thrive, they still did well, but if they would have been exposed to it even in middle school, it would have made a difference in terms of their mindset going in. But yeah, John's right. Like, the authenticity, if it's not authentic, they don't give a, they don't care.
They don't. And you know what, Steve, I just tweeted this out, like, I think over the weekend, that I was having a conversation with my son, and he was like, Mom, school's so boring. He's an 11th grader. And I'm like, well, school's just never been his thing, right? He's like, yeah, but my, citizenship and action class. That's pretty cool. So he has this class where they work to earn their civic seal for their diploma. And
Mm.
it's grounded in PBL. Like he's working on getting charging stations. His capstone project is working to get charging stations in town for electric vehicles. That's like what he's working on. And he's
That's
communicating
cool.
with like politicians and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm so grateful that my kid at least has that one experience. And listen, my kids have had great teachers along the way. So I'm not saying anything bad about all the other teachers in my kid's life, but he's a boy and he's like about school. And this one particular class just, sparked him. So
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that is great.
and then
I go ahead, Soph.
I'm curious. Have you had an opportunity of having like kids that you had in elementary school because Tara, you said you've been doing this for 6 years now. John, a little bit longer. When is that going to happen? When the kids that you had in elementary school going to get to high school?
probably, so I don't know, John, maybe like in the next 3 years.
Yeah, probably. And it depends though, right? Because we're not in every class in the high school, so it would depend on
Right.
what track they end up running when they do get into the high school. But yeah, 3-5 years probably we'll see students that
Yeah.
are hitting that.
There's a lot of
That's
siblings
exciting.
though, like we've had kids in the manufacturing class that's like, oh my brother goes to that school, the elementary that we're working with. So they get excited when they know we're like working in a class with a sibling or a cousin or a neighbor. So
What's funny is when they turn around, when you got sixth graders, we have sixth grade in the elementary in our district, and they say, are we going to do this next year? And I look at them, I'm like, probably not, but you need to talk to your teachers about it. So you start wagging the dog, right? Get enough kids talking about it. You can start to get people to move their practice,
mhm.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm itching to talk about this book, but Tara, go ahead and finish
No,
this
the
up.
Let's
last
talk
thing,
about
we can talk about the
this.
book, but I just want to say one more thing, which can feed us into why educators need to take a look at the TAPA's approach to project-based learning, because like we know that there are several states that have adopted that portrait of a graduate. And in New York State, at least, like I know that, they're talking about what's going to happen with these standardized tests and shifts with that. And when you look at the skill sets that a portrait of a graduate we want them to come out with, it's that critical thinking and creativity and communication and civic and financial and economic literacy, and the resilience and courage speaks so loudly to me, sending them out into the scary world that we send them out into, having that resilience and courage. And I just think we really need to start changing how we are doing things for these children, because we need to set them up for success. We don't want to throw them to the wolves in the world that we are sending them out into. So with that said,
You nailed it on the head. It's funny, our systems, how they move so slow in education, right? The portrait of a graduate, but the assessment piece, right? Like that's the animal that really stops people from doing things.
yes,
Are these assessments that we have because we're so fearful if I do something else, I'm not going to get the results that I need. When you're starting to see a lot of white papers that are coming out where students are outperforming, when you have PBL cohorts, they're outperforming the more traditional methods. And so the more and more that starts to hit and system starts to buy in,
Even
Yeah.
a small change to even just be like more student centered in your instruction makes a huge difference. And I saw that in my own instruction. It was,
I mean, just taking the ingredients, no pun intended.
well
No,
done.
we
intended.
like it.
Thanks for joining us in the analogy or the metaphor.
Because no, Sophie, I've had similar thoughts like when I train on PBL, right? And I'll have teachers be like, well, Steve, I'm not ready to go all in on this, but I do love this and this and this that you shared. And to me, that's a win. Like, oh, cool. You're going to have your students explore a little bit more of their inquiry. Cool. Like to me, that's a win.
Yeah.
Okay. John's ready. John's
No, I'm
ready.
holding it up.
Sophie,
See,
Sophie,
you're actually,
sorry.
you're hitting it on the
Sophie
head.
didn't come
You're
yet.
hitting it right on the head. That's why I lifted the book, because it's literally what's in the book, right? It's these small
Fantastic.
And for those that are listening, I just got this in the mail. Like, it showed up. I checked the mail like 30 minutes before I hopped on. I had the opportunity to do a quick TikTok on it. Yes, I do TikTok now. It's scary. And this, like, from a branding and marketing standpoint, can I say this, like, super cute? It's adorable. Like, Tab's approach to project-based learning, a culinary map for educators on the transformative power of PBL. And then, like, the cover of it's awesome. So maybe tell us a little bit about the book. Like, if you're somebody named Steve, let's say, and that's going to pick this up this weekend, what should I be expecting? What am I going to learn? Just tell me about it. Maybe Tara.
Why don't you jump on it, Tara? I'll follow up.
Okay, no problem. So if you're picking this book up, we definitely suggest reading it like from cover to the back of the book, cover to cover. But taking each chapter is a bite, right? So PBL experiences sometimes just seem so big and overwhelming. But you take chapter by chapter, and as you're reading it, think, which small bite can I take out of this? Like, what do I feel comfortable with tomorrow in my classroom? And you get to just decide that. You don't have to do that very warm temperature PBL. Like you said, people go to your PD, Steve, and it's like, okay, I can't do all this, but I could take this one thing. So, if you want to start playing with, student autonomy in your classroom, well, yeah, we want you to read the book cover to cover, but you can go to that chapter specific on student autonomy, chapter 8, and see, okay, what are some suggestions just to start bringing more choice into my class? Or, you know what, I don't do enough, reflection and critique and revision in the work that I do. So I can go right into chapter 13 and start working on really bringing reflective practices into my classroom. So if you're someone who's not ready to turn that temperature all the way up right away, that's okay. That's why we designed the book the way we did, because you don't have to. Yeah.
And when the best part about this is PBL offers you the luxury of this, because it's just really draped in, and I hate the phrase, I'm going to use it. It's kind of just has a lot of best practice that makes up project-based learning. Student autonomy, Tara talked about it. Research and inquiry and authentic assessments. I mean, we can go down the list of all these pieces. This doesn't have to be PBL. It could be elemental, which is what we refer to as the cool, is grab a piece and start to do more of this in your classroom. Now add another piece on and another piece on. The same way that tapas is going to come out to your table in these small bites, right? It's the same approach as you go chapter by chapter. And you don't have to be in the world of PBL. It doesn't have to be this huge, grand public product, but the idea that there's a real world relevance and authenticity is important. I mean, just tweeted something out the other day. We had a Google Meet with some of our community partners. And instead of saying we have this huge relationship, maybe you just do a Google Meet and you have a community partner launch a challenge for your kids, or just do some mentoring with your kids, or just simply, hey, they're going to be expertise around something, or provide you feedback in relationship. Doesn't have to be all of it. We're looking at these small parts of it. We break it down in the book for you.
So if you're somebody who's just picking up the book, right? I know you said, oh, you really like the cover, which we're very proud that we we designed it. It was very fun. And the iterative process that we went through was extremely fun too. But if you're going to pick up this book, it's actually really fun to read. Like, our analogies to the culinary world, like if you're a foodie and an educator, we had a lot of fun playing with the words and coming up with the chapter names and even the images to go along with it. It's just, there's some unconventional pieces to it because of that culinary twist. But one of the chapters is called Utilizing What's in the Pantry. So, right, that's a chapter about how to take what your curricular resources are and use it in a PBL. Like, this isn't something extra. You have to get through your curriculum. So what are the resources for your curriculum? Use them, So a lot of fun, playful language in the book if you're someone who likes that.
And the other side is we have a 4-part framework that's there, right? Foundational concepts, key elements, enhancements, assessment. So we break it into this 4-part framework. So if you are new to PBL, you can go to one section within the foundational concepts to start to understand it. If you're a more seasoned veteran in PBL, you can start to jump into some of the other chapters and say, I want some of these enhancements. I want a better assessment and reflection within the work that I'm doing. And so it's broken into those 4 parts as well as having the comparison to
Right.
food and education.
Yeah.
Our publisher, actually, I'm going to actually say it, Daphne, our editor, when we were working with her, she started laughing. She goes, be honest, didn't see it. I wasn't really on board with it. I didn't know how you were going to merge the culinary world and the academic world. And she turns around and there was one point where she had responded on the side of the dock as we were collaborating.
Yeah.
It was like chef's kiss. And I was like, there it is. I'm like, Daphne's on board.
Yeah. No, definitely a lot of fun playing with, writing this book. A lot of thought and experience went into it. Like, at one point and this is actually really important to say to, our potential future readers. At one point, our editor said, we used the word scenario, like in this scenario. And she's like, so is this not a true story? And we're like, oh no, this actually happened. She goes, let's not use the word scenario because it makes people think like maybe it's not a true story. And so we're like, no. So like, let's change that word because we don't want our readers to think that this is like not grounded in the truth of what we do every single day. Like anything that we've done, it's been because we've been the boots on the ground in the classrooms that we were talking about. And listen, we fall on our face sometimes. And so we get right back up and say, how do we do it differently? And through those trials and open-minded teachers that let us fall on our face and they fall with us, and then we get back up and figure it out, we were able to write this book. So
that's phenomenal. I do want anybody because there are folks watching this live. I do want to just show right here. So the pbltaps.com, my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong because that happens often. Sophie can speak to that. This is all like just more detailed information on the book, right? Like
it's
a
freebies. So when you look at the webpage, it's the interactive accompaniment to the book. So if you think about it, there's templates that are out there. There's rubrics that are out there. There's a professed framework that we use for critique and like a critique protocol.
There's our framework.
There's our framework. We broke it into each of the chunks of the book so that you now have resources. We did a partnership with AI where we have, when we're taking a look at it, there's Tapas to Go, but then there's also the Innovation Hub. Tapas to Go are more comprehensive PBL scenarios that are written. The Innovation Hub is literally running K through 12, and we aligned it to standards, and we set up various resources that you were looking a 4th grade teacher and you want a PBL idea on geometry, it's there. You want a PBL idea, you're a 2nd grade teacher and you're working specifically on earth systems, it's there. So we did these purposefully to kind of inspire, and it's the Innovation Hub.
I'm sorry.
Like
you're in the
Topic
to Go. So when you click on it, we put it together as a menu. There's a Tapas blog that this is the portrait of the graduate. We just wrote how the book is like perfectly aligned to what their expectations are.
Right. So together, like, sure, people could go out to this webpage and grab something for free. Who doesn't love free stuff? But when you pair it with the book, right, and you see there's a little spoon on a page in the book, and it's like, oh, I got to go to, the Tapas templates and let me see what the book is saying, and it's going to teach me how to use what's on that webpage. So,
so that's weak right there, Steve. You're on the Reels page. You said you joined the TikTok world. Tara and I played a game. We did one. We'll see if we're going to get some more on there, but we'll see.
And the
Hey, you
amount
know
of
what?
takes, oh my God, the amount of takes that we had to do. Oh, it was like in John's dining room. We were dying. I was like,
Here's how I do it. In my mind, I just assume it's going to be bad. So then I relieve all pressure. I'm like, cool, it's going to go out.
That's awesome.
So just so folks know, like, so this is available. I'm going to refer back to this when I start reading the book. And again, like, you know, the pbltabs.com, that is there. I also want to take with because we are running out of time here, which is normal on the show, is the Steam Machine. So we have this other site, steammachinepd.com. Tell us about it.
sure.
Maybe John first.
So
John,
Steam
you
Machine,
or Tara. I don't know.
No, John, you go.
The Steam Machine came out originally. That was where we do professional developments. Where we've worked with neighboring districts. We've worked with colleagues outside. We've done virtual. We've driven to different places, primarily within our local area. So Steam Machine was that, and so this is really more like an online catalog. When you take a look at it, that talks about some of the offerings that are there. We got to update it. There's probably some other stuff we need to add.
Right, consulting work. You know, right now we're in the middle of negotiating with a Florida school district, which is very cool. So, yeah, we'll be.
So this is, you know, just captured images of us working with different teachers. The insights. Those are some of the Edutopia articles that we've written in relationship to STEAM.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually read the one about math word problems before today.
Did you?
Oh, okay.
That's awesome.
But I didn't know it was y'all. I was just like, I'm looking for ideas. And there it was. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty
I'll be honest
awesome.
with you, the impact that has for children to understand, we generally employ it with like numberless word problems. If you read the article, right? It's pretty powerful. You know, children come out of it with great understanding of the context of the story. You know?
And I know we have to finish up, but we would not be here today if it wasn't for our publishing company, Codebreaker. Brian Aspinall is the, founder.
Codebreaker? I know that guy.
Yeah, that's the publisher, Brian. Yeah, and then
I don't know him personally, but we follow each other on social media. I don't know if that means anything, but yeah, I'm very familiar. I see his stuff all the time.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Big fan of his messaging though. Like he has some good stuff out there.
They're phenomenal, and we have to give a nod to
Daphne.
To Daphne, the editor, but we also Chris, who wrote our the foreword for our book. Daily Steam is his book. He just great guy. Has been nothing but olive branches. We can't thank all of them enough, because you joke around saying follow on social media. Tara and I laugh at we call ourselves social media giants, but we're like nothing.
Totally joking.
Yeah.
Like I think I had 200 followers before this book came out, and now I'm about like 1,200. It's very exciting.
Yeah. So we have to give Codebreaker and Chris a nod because they've been nothing but spectacular.
Yeah. And our editor Daphne. So McMenemy, she's awesome. Also an author for Codebreaker for children's books.
The whole community. It's an amazing network that they've created. Just following each other, and like you said, through social media, seeing things or getting some messages from them, seeing what it is that everyone is about. There's a great group of people that are part of the Codebreaker team, so it's great to be part of it.
Yeah, no, we all need that PLN, right? Like that network of people. Mine may only consist of Sophie, but
you have
appreciate.
You have us.
I was gonna say we're in it now, aren't we? In it with you, Steve?
Oh yeah, I welcome anyone that will collaborate with me. So I do want to, John and Tara, like we always wrap up the show with the one question that we always ask. And it could be something you've touched on, but certainly like something different. And so maybe we'll start with Tara first.
Tara.
Okay, so top of the mind.
So top of mind. So what is top of mind for you right now in education?
I think John and I will probably have same answers, but we could both talk to it differently. Is the world of artificial intelligence with PBL.
Surprise.
So yeah, I think that artificial intelligence is extremely scary for many of us. And it's also like mesmerizing at the same time. And so rather than being afraid of it, we're running alongside of it. We're doing a lot of learning, and we're not just using it to be like quick planners as teachers, but we're actually using it so that students could be more efficient, and we're not being scared of letting children learn how to interact with it. Like, I'm appalled that my daughter is a freshman in college and she needs inspiration for a presentation. I said, "Oh, why don't you hop on chat and get inspiration?" "Mom, it's in the handbook. We can't use that." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, what?" Like, I'm not asking you to like copy, you're just getting inspired. So that is what is top on the mind in education for me. And John, you can add to that.
Yeah, I'm going to jump right on. It's AI as well. We're in a project together, Tara and I, where we're taking a look at it. We'll kind of give a little teaser. It's PBL AI. We're kind of putting the whole acronym together because the way that these things work together, it's magic. It really is. And I think that the world of AI, if we go with the dystopian thought that we know is out there, when you are training children in the early years how to ethically interact with it, we should have less fears in the future, right? And so when we look at it, it's actually the student interface that we're very interested in, and how we can support them with the ethics of using AI and what it really means, the biases behind it, what will they use it for, and what we're seeing, it's actually quite remarkable. You would think that children would just want to take and go. And actually, we've had quotes from students going, "I can't believe this is elevating my thinking," right? A sixth grader saying that. And I'm going, "What? What did you just say?"
Right.
And it's like it blows your mind.
Right. Or can I just add on for 1
Sure.
second? Second graders, because you might not think we're doing AI with second graders. Now, they're not on the platform, but we had second graders that I was helping them use chat as like an editing tool. And the way chat changed the vocabulary word, they're like, "My word is smarter than that." And I'm like, "Well, use your word. You don't have to use what chat is suggesting." Second grade.
So they're analyzing outputs. They're using it ethically. Like, this is what we need to train the next generation for. We can't really predict what that future is going to be. I would be foolish to pretend. But what I do know is that if we can build humans that have morals and ethics, and that they create something for someone, I think we're doing a good thing, you know? And so that's where we're at with AI and some of the PBL work that we've been doing.
I like that proactive approach rather than a reactive one, for sure, for sure.
If we're going to prepare for the future, we better at least know where we stand today. Because who knows what that's going to be, I better be in a decent spot today. Yeah.
I like
Love that. Love that. Yeah. I love, and Sophie knows this about me. I just, PBL has a special place in my heart. We've had guests. It's been a while since I've had a PBL guest on. So it's like, I'm like, fresh air. Yes, it is fall.
Yes.
It's not blazing hot outside of my door. So this was super enlightening. John, Tara, we appreciate you both being here and being a part of this conversation.
You're both a lot of fun. Thank you for having us.
So much fun. Thanks for making this really easy. Like, I don't want to go. I could talk shop for hours.
I know. I feel like we're just hanging out, which is pretty nice. You know?
Yeah, and
that's what we go for.
Yeah, that's what we go for. I say this often. You are more than welcome back. And so if you want to have a different chat, maybe a more focused chat in the book, wait for us to read it. Maybe like have like a book club. Session. Yes, I love me a book club.
All right.
Listen, you sink your teeth into that tapas, and you let us know once after you're done. You say, "All right, let's do something with this." We'd be happy to.
Oh well, I love food, so I'm going to be about it. I'm going to be about it. Awesome. So, friends, just to wrap things up, I do want to share that we have something kind of different this weekend. And it's not because Sophie's going to be in a different location. That's not why. But we do have, let's see, did I share that correctly? There it is. Okay, cool. We're doing back into our normal Saturday jam. So I keep on wanting to call her Marissa Alum because that's her maiden name. Marissa and I have been friends for many, many years. And so she's actually very local. And so Marissa Venezuela, she's coming to my house. And we've never had an in-person guest on the show. So she does reside in my area. If you're familiar with the Central Valley of California, she's in the Modesto area, and she's been an educator for some time, and she's coming in from the SPED perspective, what it means to have trauma at the forefront of your classroom, how to navigate all that, trauma-informed care, and really pumped to have her on the show this weekend, chatting about that important topic and her experiences in the classroom. So be on the lookout for that. That is coming out this Saturday. It will be live and also drop the same day. And for all of those that are watching now, that are continuing to show that support, just remember that you can continue to give that support to places like underhatpod.com. Please give us a follow if that is something that you're doing, whether that's on the X, the Insta, the YouTube, whatever the case is.
Or now TikTok.
Really appreciate all the love. Now TikTok, super, super scary. I don't know why I was so scared of TikTok. I still am though. I still low-key am.
Tara and John, and if people want to get in touch with you, how could they do that? Besides the websites that we've already shown.
Yeah, so our contacts are on the websites, but you can follow me on Twitter at TK Talk Steam.
Mine's at Twitter is Salmonsteam.
We should say X now, right? Like I say Twitter, it's still Twitter to me, but
it's ingrained in my head. Yeah.
That's probably the best place to contact us. And then our other socials, I know you'll be posting, guys. So
Yep. Well, I'm going to add all that in the show notes.
Yeah. Yep. You could also email us at steammachinepd@gmail.com.
We'll have all of that in there for people to reach out to you. Again, appreciate you both. Until next time, friends, we're going to call this an episode. And for those that are listening, watching, whatever the case is, keep your hats on, but your minds open. We'll chat soon.